Welcome to Buckets, coming to you from the Tommy John Holmes Studios. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network, joined by MSG Network's own Sean Little at Chicago Flow and NBA senior NBA futures analyst, Brandon Anderson at Wheaton Brando, WHEATONBRANDO, or as I've started to call him because we have Brandon Kravitz on board, Branderson, for this. A little bit of a series reset. No best bets today. We're not going to do best bets on this show. We'll talk series long prop leader stuff from Brandon and get some value there. We'll talk series prices, but no best bets for game 3. That's on tomorrow's show. Do have a little bit of a break here, so not wanting to cram everything in there. If you're watching us at youtube.com/the Action Network, please give us a like and subscribe. It does help us out so much with growing the show. Also, leave us in the comments your thoughts on game 3 in the series and anything you have questions for, and I'll get the fellas to answer things here on the show. Pacers take game 1. The Thunder strike back in game 2 with a result that was lopsided in total score. Brandon will get into it, but once I dug into kind of this game and I went back and really kind of dug in, I was less impressed with the results. I am curious right off the top, your reaction to game 2 of the NBA Finals.
I think Indiana can't score the basketball very well. I think Indiana pretended to score the basketball in the fourth quarter when we were just kind of getting to the finish line. But I think for the series overall, the Pacers are struggling to score in this defense. And until that changes significantly, I still feel pretty strongly about OKC.
Okay. All right. Sean, I'll get your thoughts, and then I'll go back to Brandon for the Iverson of it all.
Yeah, I mean, we knew we'd be here. It's 1-1. We figured that the Oklahoma City Thunder would bounce back. We figured that the role players would get more involved. That's why we played the SGA PRA. Got a little fortunate that he was sat the last few minutes, but that's what we talked about. The blowout potential was there. He didn't end up getting those extra few minutes that he might have. Other guys got involved. If you're going to get 9 threes from Wiggins and Caruso combined, you're going to be very tough to beat. I said this on the postgame show for the NBA was, I think if you get 2 of the 3 top henchmen for the Thunder in SGA, Chet, and J-Dub to play well, you're not going to beat the Thunder. The only way you're even going to have a shot is if SGA plays really well and Chet and J-Dub play poorly like they did in game 1, and you're still going to need a buzzer beater because that's how deep and that's how good the defense is. You got 2 of the 3. Chet played really well. SGA played really well. And you got a dub and you got other guys to contribute. I figured that was going to be the spot. And that's why I didn't tell Brandon, if you go back and listen to the episode, to stick with the escalators from game 1 and bring them into game 2, because he knew it deep down. Everything about his cap, he said, the Thunder are going to come in. They're going to clean some things up. They're going to get a big win. They're going to go back 1-1 to game 3. That's why we're betting the series this way. That's why we're attacking it at every different angle we can. But he was a bit spooked. It was the time, I believe, overall not to be spooked, and it came to fruition. The Thunder took care of business. Really quick, I will say I'm not on the episode tomorrow for game 3 best bets. I like the over. There's a 228 in the market. We can talk about the game flow and how we'll see it there. I think over 228 is the play. That would be my best bet.
I will once again be the lone voice in the wilderness crying out for the under. Great. Just absolutely lovely after the beat I took in game 2. Should have been an under the whole way. I'm gonna play devil's advocate here a little bit. So to Brandon's point. So Brandon, this surprised me is the reason I bring this up, because I had the same feeling that you did. Third quarter, 138 offensive rating for the Indiana Pacers. 138 offensive rating. Thunder had a 148 because everybody made shots. That makes sense. I broke it down more fully from the start of the second half through the last 2 until the last 2 minutes when we really hit garbage time. 137 to 140 is the offensive rating. This is my read on game 2, and genuinely. I think the Thunder got a top percentile outcome here. You get 20 points from little old broken jumper Alex Caruso. 20 points from everyone's favorite little henchman, Alex Caruso. You should blow out your opponent if that happens. SGA is going to do whatever he wants in this series. Now, the Pacers defensively got away from a little bit of their script in there. The Thunder were going to adjust their spacing. They talked about that before game 2. They did, and that's why SGA was able to generate the assists. The Pacers in the second half got their offense going, particularly with dribble handoff motions. That's a lot of what allowed Tyrese Halliburton to get going in the second half, and that's likely to carry through. We always talk about, Brandon, the series flow where it's like in game 2, even if you're losing, you want to like feel like you figured out something going into game 3. The Pacers won the second half of game 2. Now, you could say like, well, yeah, but garbage time. Okay. They tied in the second half of game 3 until the last 2 minutes. They tied them. And offensively, OKC didn't get like a, I don't know, like elite all time. Like not everybody was knocking down shots, but for this crew, I think they certainly did. I am trying not to overreact, but this morning's analysis that I did in the wake, like last night, I was like, yeah, this is probably like maybe we're our Thunder in 5 is still good. This morning, in the light of day, after kind of doing another analysis on it, I'm a little bit more encouraged by Indiana, to be honest with you. I think that there's actually some positive steps going into game 3.
Really
Sean,
quick,
I'm
BA.
sorry, buddy. You got to wait, sir, because you doubted the Pacers every game of that Knicks series while I'm
gonna forget what I was gonna say, but I got a lot to say about what you just laid out.
You go ahead.
I want to hear it. Go, Sean.
Okay, so what did you just lay out was the offensive rating in the third quarter?
137.
They lost the third quarter. 34-33.
No,
so,
I was directly responding to Brandon's assertion they can't score on them.
Sure. So if they played phenomenal offense and they did their thing and they lost that quarter, and that's on top of the Thunder being up 18. It's just natural to relax a bit in spots that when you're pushing up, being close up to 20 points, like
After
they did.
You blew a 15-point lead in game 1?
Without question, and just like they let go of the rope
with J-Dub on camera saying, don't let up. They're comfortable down 15.
No doubt. And every time they punched, the Thunder punched back and separated themselves, unlike they did in that game 1. So this also goes back to what I said coming into game 1. Everyone talked about the pace of the Pacers and how they're just going to get up and down and run this team off the floor. When if you look at the numbers, the Thunder play faster than the Pacers. Everything the Thunder or the Pacers do really well, the Thunder can match and then do a lot of things a lot better. I mean, we're in a very similar spot to where Houdini Halliburton pulled a rabbit out of his hat and did his thing down the stretch, and they got really tight and won game 1. But this team is head and shoulders better than the Pacers, and I think we're going to see it the rest of the series.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. They're better than the Pacers. My problem is game script after they stole game 1. That's my problem. Is like, do I think the Thunder are better than the Pacers? Of course I do. I picked them to win in 5.
No, and I know you're playing devil's advocate a bit, but when you sit down and say, look, I went through the numbers, and in the third quarter, the offense was blistering and they were doing what they want, and then they lost that quarter. It's like, how do you beat these dudes? I don't like that's where it gets really.
Let's go back here. Do you think an offensive scripted game is good for OKC?
Of course not.
No.
Their offensive unit's the worst of the bunch. For sure.
That second half scripts a lot closer to Indiana. I'm not denying, like, I expect OKC to play well. I expected OKC to win game 2. I was like, gut feeling was like, I think the Pacers could win this. And then I chickened out and didn't bet it because I was terrified because I don't know. I go back and forth on everything. Brandon, what are your kind of thoughts on that? I mostly wanted to point out that the idea that Indiana can't score on them moved away from that in the second half. And I think Carlisle is probably scripting this for now is when the adjustments come. And I think with home shooting, like game 3 sets up as a very good opportunity for Indiana.
So third quarter numbers, we've had those a couple of times. Through 4 minutes in the fourth quarter, when the Stars get pulled, Indiana's offense has a 104 offensive rating. 104. From the biggest sample we can get before the game was just a blowout. 104 is not good. 104 is not good enough. I know Oklahoma City's defense is good, but that's the point. 104 is not good enough for Indiana's offense for the majority of the game. At halftime, Oklahoma City, 16 of 26 on twos, 62%. That was the regression back to the mean and then some. They're getting anything they wanted. Indiana on twos at halftime, 8 of 21, 38%. The twos were the big disparity coming in. They flip-flopped in game one, especially for OKC. That was the shot variance outcome, was OKC's twos not falling, and Indiana finishes 10 of 12 on twos in the fourth quarter. So what I have to decide is that something? Is that a thing? Did Indiana find answers? Because you're right, Matt. We always talk about don't just give up the white flag here. Can you find some solutions? We don't know. We'll see in game 3. My assertion right now is from watching the game last night, and I know they just gave up a big lead and blew it. I personally can't believe Dags pulled the starters with like 3-4 minutes left. I'm like, bro, maybe a minute or two more? You're playing one game in a 6-day window right now. Can we just close this thing out? That's what I personally thought. No Thunder players acted that way. And watching the game, the second half of the game to me felt like a scrimmage from January, February. Like for the most part, both teams knew this game is done and dusted, and Oklahoma City to me is just running the clock out. Oh, you scored? That's great. We scored 2. Oh, you scored again? Oh, we scored again too. We're still ahead by 15, 20. Like at no point anywhere in the second half did it feel like Oklahoma City felt threatened. So I don't know that I can really take fourth quarter offense seriously from Indiana when you're padding the numbers to make the overall game numbers look better, but Indiana's not going 10 of 12 on twos in like a serious part of the game. Those are fake twos. Like, okay, congrats, you made a layup. We're still ahead by 18. We're going back the other way. That doesn't mean anything to me.
If we disregard all of the good stuff that Indiana did, then yes, it was very bad for the Pacers.
We're disregarding the stuff that they did in the portion of the game that was not competitive or meaningful is the point. I agree with you.
Like there was no script. There was no script for them to be able to do otherwise. Like I don't understand. If we were going to try and examine and make an argument that the Pacers had figured out something, you're basically saying they can't get blown out. Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they should not get blown out or it doesn't matter. That's true. I agree with that statement. I disagree with this being a high percentile outcome for Oklahoma City.
You did this in the Knicks series too. Well, the Celtics were up 20 and this and that and the other. It's like the whole fucking game counts, Brandon. Like the whole game matters. Do you agree, Sean?
To a sense, but I also think that it's been very clear when the Thunder are dialed in and are doing what they want to do. They're slowing up Halliburton and slowing up the offense for a vast majority of the minutes on court that matter.
No
so it's easier for me to dismiss the last 6 minutes where there was a time middle of the third quarter where Halliburton had the least amount of shot attempts out of the 5 starters. And then he flips the script a little bit and you look at the numbers after the game. He's like, oh, he had 16-7. It's like it's not too far off of his season average for points scored. But if you watch that game, he was a non-factor until very late in the fourth when they were down 20 plus almost the entire way.
See, I go some of this the other way too, where if you're Rick Carlisle, you know what's coming in game 2. Right? Like they didn't throw the kitchen sink at this game. This was like let's go in. Let's see what we can find. They're going to make adjustments. They're going to play better. They're going to play hungry. Alex Cruz is going to score 20 adorable points, and then they're going to be able to probably blow us out here, BA. But like, we expected that result. I don't know. Is it just that the result matches your prior, and so it's more valid?
No, that's the thing that you like to accuse me of quite often. That's not the way they look at the games. The reason is we've now seen 8 quarters of play. I would say something like 6 of the quarters, we have seen Oklahoma City's defense clearly outplay Indiana's offense. In some of those quarters, OKC's offense stunk, and so they lost a game. And in some of those quarters, mostly last night, Oklahoma City's offense was good, and then they were comfortably way out ahead in the game. So I don't know about Oklahoma City's offense yet. I don't know if we can trust that. I totally disagree that this was a top percentile outcome for them. Absolutely. Caruso 20 and Wiggins 18. That's a 1 percentile outcome. You're not getting 38 from those guys again. Congratulations. We enjoyed that run, Oklahoma City's bench. I thought Oklahoma City's bench won the game last night. Don't forget Hartenstein came off the bench, and he was great also. So that's those three dudes and the double big, that swung the game for them. J-Dub sucked. J-Dub's been terrible in the finals. Chet looked good, but Chet has not been great in the finals. Chet's advanced metrics still have not been good even last night, even when he was playing better and more aggressive. Really got a little too aggressive, I think. Oklahoma City can't have a top percentile outcome for the game if J-Dub and Chet are both playing poorly. That's not a possible top percentile outcome for them. You're not going to get 20 Caruso and 18 Wiggins. Again, I agree. Just like Indiana didn't get, 5 Toppin threes again. That's the outlier. Somebody's going to do that from the random bench guys. We don't know who. We don't have a way to predict that very well. J-Dub and Chet playing this poorly, to me, what I'm interested in, and I don't know if I know the answer to this, Shea being awesome, no surprises. Against Indiana, we know what he's going to do. OKC's bench playing well. I think they'll continue to play well. Not this well necessarily, but I think they'll be good. Not getting really anything offensively from Dort and Case Wallace. That's not what those guys are out there for. That's not the point. Right. J-Dub and Chet. Can Oklahoma City actually win the series with Shea and bench and not J-Dub and Chet? Right now it's 1-1 for a reason. And I think Chet and J-Dub are the reason that it's not 2-0. I know we can splice it down to the end of the fourth quarter and you make the stop and whatever, maybe it's 2-0. If Chet and J-Dub are even average so far, Oklahoma City wins by 10 and 25. And we are trying to find something to talk about today. So I don't know if I should feel good about Oklahoma City when their second and third guys haven't actually played that well so far. Maybe I should feel great because they're winning a game anyways, should have been up 2-0, and maybe those guys are bound to come around. But maybe this is a Carlisle thing. Go ahead, Shea, do your thing. We're going to shut down the rest of the guys, and we don't think you can do it over the long run. Offensively, I'm not sold necessarily on what OKC is doing. Defensively against Indiana's offense, I think OKC has done more than its job. If they can just score enough offense, they should be fine.
Yeah, and I don't get there for a number of reasons. Some of the other things about this game script that are, I think, it should be a little concerning here for OKC. Pacers won points off of turnovers in game 2. They won points off of turnovers. They won second chance points, 10-9. They won fast break points, 9-4. So Indiana wins all of these margins. So well, then what did the Thunder do well, Matt? Well, the Pacers shot 14 of 40 from 3, and the Thunder shot 14 of 36, and the Thunder got to the line for 33 free throws and made 29 of them.
Pacers turned the Thunder over quite a bit as well. You don't really see the Thunder's turnovers up 14, 15 in the game like it was last night.
I think, this is probably where I will come back around the other way, right? Is, okay, so the game script wasn't good for OKC as good as it looked on paper. They still won by 16.
Yeah, that's my point. They didn't win the turnovers. They didn't dominate a lot of the areas that they can dominate. And Chet and J-Dub weren't good, especially J-Dub. And they still were never threatened in the game. So to me, again, 4 factors on one game, not much. But Oklahoma City won all 4 factors. Worryingly, they dominated on free throws. That's not a good trend for Indiana. More worryingly, they dominated on the offensive glass. If you're going to start doing that against Indiana, who's beatable there, by the way, we know that already. If you're going to start doing that and winning with the double big, that's a problem too.
I'm going to go back to this. It doesn't matter if you get turnovers or rebounds if you don't score on them. It doesn't
matter.
It doesn't.
This is ludicrous logic. Okay, it matters if you give the team with the best net rating in NBA history extra possessions. It matters. I am confident of that statement.
Think about this. Get out of the little box score, the 4 factors watching for a second. Let's actually think about the game. You turn the ball over. They miss a shot. You rebound it. What is the outcome of those 2 possessions?
The outcome of those 2 possessions is 0, but the outcome is you got an extra possession they didn't get. And if you do that over a whole series, it's going to go your direction.
Okay. the problem is about like efficiency expected margin. If you create that, you're expected to get like, off of a turnover, your expectation needs to be like 1.8.
Yes.
If you get less than a point,
1.8, it's a little ridiculous. Off a live ball turnover, probably like 1.5, right?
No, like Synergy Sports is 1.76.
Off live ball, though, yes?
Yeah, off live ball. That's what I'm talking about, live ball turnovers.
Okay.
I don't disagree that the extra possession, like you're right, over the course of it, right? Like you create this extra margin here. But ultimately, especially the offensive rebounds one is the one that always kills me, where I'm like, if you rebound the ball 4 times and you don't score, it's just like you had 1 possession. There's no differential. There's no difference.
The Moses Malone tweet.
Like there is no difference there if you rebound it over and over and over and over and over again and you don't score. It's not like meaningful. What do you think, Sean?
Well, I mean, it's tough because obviously you want more opportunities to miss shots, right? So like if you get more opportunities to miss, hopefully some of those fall and better off long term. You're right, BA. That's where it gets. I think I understand what you're saying, Matt, because I think overall, and one thing I learned a long time ago in betting is that if it was purely a math game, mathematician, model, all the mathematicians would be sports betting professionals. In other words, they would just they'd be a mathematician and they'd bet sports because it would just be a numbers breakdown. There has to be a little nuance involved. And if you've had success all year long on turning teams over and turning those into points, and you're not able to do that against this specific opponent over a 5 or 6 game stretch, that could be very detrimental to your success overall in that series. And it could be matchup based. It could be opportunity. It could be different things. But I think you guys can both be right. Overall, in the grand scheme, I create turnovers to have more shots. That's going to be beneficial. But you're in a short sample size, which is essentially a 7-game series, you're going to need to turn those into points. And so far, the Thunder haven't done that. So we're talking about this specific series. It's tough.
Yeah, and I also get, because like shots on goal, like Brandon's essential points, like hockey, right? Like more shots on goal is better than no shots on goal.
Yeah,
inherently. Like if you have the puck and you don't get a shot on goal, and you get a shot on goal, one is better than the other, right? It's a scoring opportunity is always better. I do think in the series differential here, when we're talking about these individual, small sample and single game margins, you got to be able to convert them into a meaningful differential. Otherwise, it shortens that margin. Does that make sense, Brandon?
Yeah, it makes sense. But I think, too, let's not forget that turnovers are 2 things. Turnovers are a chance for you to score at a very high rate. Turnovers are a guarantee that the opponent scored 0.00 points per possession.
Yep.
And Indiana's offense, like, let's say over the course of a game, you take 8 turnovers for Indiana that are not usually there, and the Thunder score nothing off of them. So by your assertion, 0 for the Pacers, 0 for the Thunder, nothing came out of that. But the reality is the Thunder are favored by 10 in these games. If we just zapped away 5 or 6 minutes of time, 0-0, we just left less time for Indiana to be able to make up ground on the big deficit that we know they're facing. Like, you need time and variance to overcome the deficit. And you're right. I would prefer, as an Oklahoma City better, for Indiana to score 0 and Oklahoma City to score 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 on those. That would be better. But 0-0 is still a good outcome for Oklahoma City because it's still 0 for Indiana and they're still not scoring. And as long as the Pacers aren't scoring, that's still a good outcome for the team that is much better overall.
I wind up going back in this game to pretty simply the Pacers shot 14 of 40 from 3. That's the number that kind of is the differential here. I think the bench minutes continue to be, they are not generating good offense. That Shea and the bench are creating good offense and killing them on defense. And the Pacers, when they do not have Tyrese Halliburton on the floor, are not creating good offense and are not getting good shots. I also think in the minutes in which they had Halliburton on the floor, that they did not get shooting variance in their favor. Is that a fair kind of way to look at it, Brandon?
I think so. I'm curious, how do you feel about the 40 part of the 43s for Indiana? They're just under 50% 3-point attempt rate so far, both games. That's way above their season average. Do you feel good about the quality of these threes they're getting up? Do you feel like that's a strategy by the Pacers or a strategy by the Thunder?
No. So this is kind of what I came to understand about Indiana. And this is from listening to podcasts with like Caitlin Cooper and talking to people in the league too. Somebody in the league told me, and a guy that works on coaching staff said, the thing about Indiana is that they will take the shots that you give them. And in the regular season, because they were so much sharper, they dictated terms. He's like, I feel like their 3-point rate in the regular season was largely dictated because they didn't have to take those threes because their offense was good enough for them to generate other ones. So I get where you're coming from on the perspective of this is not who they've been. That's why they've been so killer in the playoffs. Is like the Knicks had this exact same thing where it was like there was kind of this sense from a lot of Knicks fans where they were like, well, they don't take threes either, so it should be okay. And the Pacers were like, wanna bet? And that wound up being like a huge factor. Sean, like, does that track with what you saw in that Knicks series?
Yeah, I mean, there were huge stretches of the Knicks season where they would get absolutely torched behind the 3-point line. I mean, stretches of like 4 or 5 games in a row where the opponent was shooting like 44, 45% from three. They were giving up open looks all over the place. And I guess that is the interesting thing about the Pacers is they take what you give them, but the Thunder are the number one team at dictating what they want to give you. So it's
the Halliburton
difficult.
thing. It's passive, and it's like at the end of the day, it's definitely not what we want as fans and media members. We want to see not passive play, but I'm not yet convinced that it is good play either to be that passive. And I don't know if it's a chicken egg thing with Halliburton and the Indiana offense, like which one is more the reason. But like I know, Sean, you have thoughts on it. I was like, that we need to see Halliburton do the thing more. Isn't that sort of what we're saying about Indiana's offense too? If you're just taking what's available, like go do your thing sometime.
Yeah, I mean, I think in life overall in general, it's really difficult to play defense. I'm a big poker player as well. You always make a lot more things happen when you're on offense and pressing and being more aggressive than on the other end. If you're playing defense and letting others dictate, it's just very difficult to do what you want to do. You end up getting boxed in a lot more. The Halliburton thing is interesting because as Brandon just laid out for the turnover thing, and then the hockey reference from Matt is more shots, more better things are going to happen. To me, I understand the argument of, Halliburton just makes good decisions and makes the right decisions. But I think there needs to be a balance of what does my team need right now, not what the best play is, because a lot of what looks like the best play, Oklahoma City is pushing you in that direction. Like, yeah, go ahead and get Obi Toppin 9 attempts from 3. Go ahead and do that. That we like that you're going in that direction. No matter how you feel about Miles Turner, let's get Miles Turner a bunch of looks. They are a lot more comfortable with that than Halliburton kind of dictating and impacting at the basket, getting open looks, and taking more shots. So I'm just in the camp of clearly in that game too. And this could all be nullified and go back to what you talked about, Matt, with, yeah, Carlisle knew what was going to happen. No reason to share any cards. The trends all lean in the way of you split, you get the first one, you're going to get dusted in the second one, and you're just trying to get home. But I would like to think you're not trying to punt finals games. And there was a lot of stretches where Halliburton, I thought there's a difference between forcing and being more aggressive. He was neither. And I think he needs to be one or the other in that specific game flow that was happening in game 2 to give his team a chance to win the game. So there's never, ever, ever, ever a time where Tyrese Halliburton in the second half of the third quarter should have the least attempts from the floor on the team of the starters. It just should never, ever be that way, in my opinion.
I predictably have thoughts on this. We'll get Brandon's thoughts on this coming up here in a second. We mentioned at the top of the show that we're coming to you from our Tommy John home studios. That's because great games start with great underwear, and Tommy John makes the greatest. I had a cookout this weekend. Everybody came over, and, I was wearing shorts finally. It's so nice for it to finally be warm in Colorado. Also rocking the Tommy John t-shirt, and it was so comfortable just hanging out, breathable, comfortable, all that kind of stuff. It's great. They've got great pajama pants. They've got great tank tops. They've got great everything, including the underwear. You're not going to believe how good it is. When you're truly comfortable, you do everything better, and that includes bedding. If you love buckets and you love our crew, like I love Brandon Anderson and Sean Little, you'll love Tommy John. Get 25% off your first order right now at TommyJohn.com/buckets. That's 25% off at TommyJohn.com/buckets. I want to let you know about Underdog. Go yard all baseball season long with Underdog's Pick'em game. Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play right now in your state. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? To play, all you have to do is download the app and choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats. You can choose from things like home runs, strikeouts, total bases, and so much more. Once your picks feel good, you can play with as little as $1. And if you get everything right, you can win up to 1,000 times your money. Underdog lets you mix and match all you want. So make sure to get in right now. Download the Underdog app and sign up with promo code BUCKETS100 to unlock a special offer of up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. That's promo code BUCKETS100. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text Next Step to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. All right, Brandon, I'm very curious to know your thoughts on Tyrese Haliburton, our guy from the Elite 100. What are your thoughts on Tyrese Haliburton and his play in these finals?
Yeah, I mean, 3 points at halftime, one field goal made at halftime in a finals game. It's just, I just feel like I don't want him to try to turn himself into Kobe. That's not going to be good Haliburton ball. That wasn't good Kobe ball, in my opinion. That's another podcast. Somewhere in the middle. Can we get like something in the middle? Can we get a little bit more? Take a three. Like, he can get his threes up in the series. We've seen him be able to find his shot there. We've seen him, you talked about the DHOs and driving. We've seen him have a little success there. And if he gets a little success and they react, now he's going to have some lanes for passing. I don't know that I need or even want to see him be the alpha guy. We get enough of those in the NBA. It's very refreshing to see the guy that does the right thing all the time. It's just a little too right. And I think I agree with what Sean said of that. Like, nobody in the league is better at telling you, here's what we're going to let you have than Oklahoma City. And if you're going to play, well, we're going to take what you give us, ball. This is not the team you can do that against. You've got to do something better than that. And I think that's part of why, Matt, you like Siakam a lot. And I felt very strongly about his performance last round and this round. That's part of why we like Siakam, is because we're like, well, when they can't really do a lot else, Siakam he's big, he can dribble, he can go do his thing a little bit. Like, okay, that's not my preferred style. Like, I'm always going to rank highly in the Elite 100, the Haliburtons of the world. And frankly, the Siakams usually, because he usually takes what's there. But it's the playoffs, and sometimes you got to go create a bucket a little bit. And Siakam's the only guy in Indiana that at least is willing to do that. Haliburton is not willing enough to do that. And I think at times when things are flowing, great, but there's going to be a lot of times things aren't flowing against Oklahoma City. And I don't know, like, that's part of why we liked Mathurin a little bit coming into the series, is like, he's going to just go. He's going to attack and try to create a look. And at times in this matchup, I think you need a little fearlessness like that. Like, the guys that I dump on the most in all the rankings, that like the J.R. Smiths and Jamal Crawfords of the world, you need somebody to go take a shot sometimes. You need somebody to go create a little bit, like add a little, you need variance, right? Like, you need variance if you're Indiana to go beat Oklahoma City. Variance is not like, all right, you're giving us a few extra Nemhard open looks today on mid-twos. All right, well, let's try to beat you with that. That's not the variance you need. I don't mind if I have this elite Haliburton shooter taking a few harder threes some games. I don't mind going down swinging that way. I will say a thing I disagree with Sean about. I don't think they punted in game 2. I think there's a difference there, again, a middle ground between, all right, we probably know what's going to happen in game 2. We know that they're fighting for their lives at home in game 2, down 0-1. We're going to come out and give it our best shot, but we're also not going to show our cards. We talked about the zone, no zone yet. Like the various things that they can do. Okay, Oklahoma City's got double bigs. How are we going to react to that? Well, you don't know yet because we haven't showed you yet. And I think there's a difference between, we just lied down and gave them the game. I don't think that they do that. That's not, we know by now Indiana is not the team of anyone that would do that. But I think too, there's a difference between, hey, you know what? We gave it a shot. We're down 12. We got a chance here. Let's break out the twist right now and go for their throat versus, we're down 18-20. Shots aren't falling tonight. We can't stop them at all. Let's not put the zone out there because now we played the card and now they're ready for it game 3 when we actually really need it to go for the kill. So I don't mind that they didn't play all the cards in game 3. I think game 2 is a little bit of like the poker analogy. You're playing with house money. And if you get a shot and you got some house money at the end, great. Go all in and go for it. But they never really got close enough, I think, in this one to have a real chance to do that step.
So on the Halliburton point, I keep coming back to this. And I'm not just trying to use net rating as like a cover for it, but this is genuinely how I feel about Halliburton's game. Halliburton shapes the game when he doesn't have the ball. And there's been posts on this. I need to find it and share it on Twitter. But like I read a really good breakdown that was like talking about his gravity and the way that he's able to use it, especially with his ability to reverse the ball, to pull gravity one way and then manipulate it to the other side. It's like, imagine if Steph Curry was actually a good passer instead of a terrible one. And so Hallie has been, I will disagree pretty strongly with what Brandon's saying on how to attack this defense. They want you to force the issue. That's why they jam the paint. Like, watch these possessions. The reason that they allow so many threes is because 5 dudes are in the paint trying to steal the ball from you. If you go in there, you're just going to get blocked or stolen. They are too good. Like, there has to be a little bit of admission from the Pacers that this is like guerrilla warfare. You can't go out in the open and try and take on the advancing army. This is like in the Revolutionary War. It's like you got to hide in the trees and try and pick them off because you're not going to beat them with overwhelming force. You can't force your way through OKC's defense because even if you're strong enough and skilled enough to beat the first guy and the second guy, the third one's going to come through and block or strip you. So you got to be willing to find those gaps in that defense and be like, you're giving me this because you don't think I can hit it and I'm going to knock it down. And OKC is really good about directing those shots where they want them to go. That's like the big key here, right? They're not leaving Tyrese Halliburton open, right? They're not leaving Aaron Nesmith. They're not leaving Aaron Nesmith open, right? They're targeting the other guys. Those are the guys that have to step up. But the overall here is that the Pacers, Sean, are +3 with Tyrese Halliburton on the floor in a series where, as Brandon's mentioned, they've lost 6 of 8 quarters, right? I actually don't think that's a number because they won 2, 3, and I think 4 in game 1. But regardless, like the Thunder have led for the vast majority of the series, and the Pacers are still +3 with him on the court. Now they were +16.4 with starters coming into the series, but I just have realistic expectations where I'm like, you're not going to beat OKC by 5 points, let alone like 3's good enough. Their problem is the -35 that they are when Hallie sits down. And if they can narrow that margin when they go home, I think Indiana's got a chance here. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think one of the elements here that we haven't brought up yet is if this wasn't Halliburton's MO, I think it'd be a little different. Like, there have been a lot of times where he just disappears. We saw it against the Knicks, where the Knicks literally had no option for Tyrese Halliburton the entire series. He just showed up in game 5 and just like wasn't interested, wasn't applying any pressure whatsoever. So I think that makes what's going on.
At that point, I didn't think you needed to take the Knicks seriously either. So I don't blame him.
But like you said, yeah, you never know what could happen in these games. You don't want to quote unquote punt them. I don't think they're doing that, but he didn't seem interested, especially after what we saw him do in game 4. So it's like, we know what he's capable of. What is this bullshit that's going on here? The Thunder are a little bit of a different story, and I think that is also why a lot of people gave Anthony Edwards the benefit of the doubt, everybody kind of shrugged and was like, yeah, he's playing the Thunder. Like, what do you want? Like, Anthony Edwards is playing the Thunder. He's not playing well. Nobody plays well against the Thunder. It feels a little different with Halliburton because throughout the season and throughout these playoffs, he's had these moments where you can't find him. You don't know if he's on the floor or not. And you can even go through possessions where I feel like Nembhard and guys are looking for him for help, and he's not available. I think we talked about this in the group chat before we hopped on. I believe Jokic, also Brunson, are elite at they're so in tune with the squad that they know what they're going to have to do on that night by like the middle of the first quarter. It's like, I guess I'm going to have to score 35 tonight. I'm going to have to distribute tonight. Jokic is elite at it. He dissects the game and his teammates and knows exactly how he has to go about it. It doesn't feel that way to me for Halliburton. I think it even like in the second quarter, early in that third as well, what we're doing so far in this game is not working. We need to do something different. And I think that's where you're head of the snake guy in Halliburton. And SGA has kind of dissected this as well. Like, I'm going to have to get up 32, 33 shots for us to compete because J-Dub doesn't have it, Chet doesn't have it. And I don't think Halliburton is dissecting that in the right way.
I do think it's interesting that you think Jalen Brunson. It's weird. Jalen Brunson like analyzes what his team needs, and it turns out every game his team needs him to dribble the air out of the ball and flail. It's crazy. It's absolutely wild.
I knew you weren't going to be able to help yourself from responding to that part.
if you know it, they do need Brunson to do that down the stretch in a lot of these games.
Let me bring up Lou Dort so you can get one in, Brandon.
Let me ask you guys. So here's a bet that's available at one book. There's a bet available, all Pacers starters to score double-digit points. It's plus 240. That bet has hit both games so far because the Pacers have yet to have a 20-point scorer, but all 5 dudes are scoring. Halliburton and Siakam haven't put up the big numbers. Halliburton 17, Siakam 15, Turner 16, Nesmith 14, Nembhard 11. That's game 2. Game 1 was pretty similar. Plus 240, probably we should have been playing that the first 2 games. Those available then too. These bets usually stop hitting right as we notice them. Plus 240 feels a little long for the way that this offense stays egalitarian. Like especially coming home in a spot that we're going to talk about that we agree is a good spot for Indiana coming home in game 3, where we think that they maybe can get some offense going, maybe from the bench too. But Halliburton, Siakam's going to score 10. Turner in this matchup appears to be easy spot to score 10. Nesmith's probably getting at least a couple threes. So now we're pretty close there. Halliburton should score 10. That's its own separate thing. Like Nembhard's been honestly like not a huge factor, but kind of pretty solid in both games so far. I don't know. I kind of don't hate 5 starters, double digits, plus 240. I do hate it for the Thunder. I ain't playing it for the Thunder. I'll tell you that much. Play the Pacers, though. What do you think about that one?
Well, looking at the board here in game 3, to score 10 points, Nesmith is minus 245. He's the biggest dog. Nembhard's minus 250. But then, the rest of the guys are heavy favorites, of course, to score 10 points. Pascal's minus 3,500. Tyrese is minus 1,400. Miles Turner is minus 430. So, the worst price you could pay here is minus 245 in game 3.
Granted, they're negatively correlated. They're negatively correlated because one guy scoring the 10 is points away the other guy can't get. So it's not fair just to go on those prices, but parlaying all those together, even with some negative correlation, getting to a plus 240, I think is still interesting.
And from a volume perspective, isn't it like a very reasonable adjustment here? Just that Rick's like, I can't go to the bench as much. I just gotta guys, I'm sorry, it's time. We're gonna go to 40. Like the starters, we're gonna have to play 40 minutes.
I mean, possibly. We haven't really seen either team do that much yet, but at the very least, volume-wise, we're going to get 4 more minutes than we did the last game because the Pacers going to have to, hopefully play all the way to the finish line. So that could just be part of it, too, rather than just, garbage time minutes here.
Let's do some bets. So I want to talk about not best bets, but just from the series market perspective. Brandon, I would assume, I could be wrong, but I would assume you agree with the market, which is Thunder 4-1 is plus 180 from where I'm looking at in the market. 4-2 is plus 290, tied with OKC 4-3. Then it's Pacers 4-1, Pacers 4-2, Pacers 4-3. Sorry, that's out of order. Pacers 4-3 and 4-2 are behind Thunder 4-2, 4-3, and then Pacers 4-1 is obviously the longest. Do you agree with that? With that just the order of those bets from shortest to longest?
Yeah, I mean, Pacers 4-1 is very obviously the longest outcome. That's Pacers sweep the rest of the way. I think the reason the other two are split is because you either get Pacers winning at home in game 6, which you like better, or having to win a road game 7, but you got an extra game to get there. I think the order makes sense. I didn't really see a huge margin in any direction. The one that my numbers have as a slight value, and this surprised me a little bit, I do think Oklahoma City in 7, there's a plus 300 out there at one book. I show slight value on that, which to me is, I still like the Thunder. I still feel good about the Thunder, but a little respect for the Pacers and a little disrespect for the Thunder offense, I think, because they haven't really proven themselves to me yet. I have Thunder in 7 at 30%. OKC in 7 plus 300 would be 25%. So that's a decent margin worth betting. I have Thunder overall in the series about 87, 88% versus Pacers 12, 13%. So effectively a 7-1 underdog. I think Thunder just overall in the series is something around minus 500 at most books. Mine would price them closer to minus 700. So that's not a bet that I usually would make, but I think just Thunder to win the series. Effectively, we kind of did that last time. The last time when the three of us were on best bets, I gave out Oklahoma City plus 2.5 at minus 1,200. That's now minus 100,000. I forget. Minus a lot because they only win one more game. I also gave out Thunder Game 2 series. That's now just a minus 200 series ticket. That's why we liked it. We feel good about that. Sean, you gave out Thunder minus 1.5 in the series. So Thunder in 6 or less. Matt, do you have the price Thunder in 6 or less where that's at right now? And Sean, you got it at like even money, right?
Yeah, even money. I'm seeing minus 152 at minus 1.5 games right now.
How are you feeling about that ticket? And is it a ticket that you would want to reinvest in? Or is it worth betting? If you missed it on the last episode, would a better want that ticket now?
Yeah, I mean, minus 152 still seems like a fair price for 6 or less. It's always tough to say what would you do now after you're already holding a ticket that's 52 cents of better value.
Yeah,
so it's
yeah, you don't need any more added on.
I don't need any more added on, right? I'm still confident overall with. I think sometimes just in the sports betting game, it gets convoluted with prices and what you think is going to happen. And, obviously price is the most important thing when we're talking about printing slips. But if you feel like you can handle that being expensive and feel mentally it's not going to send you off the deep end and you're not going to be on mega tilt or you're going to be completely stressed out the rest of the series, I think minus 152 is still a fair number for them being down 1-1 going back to Indiana, where I think they, without question, are going to be able to flip home court at the very least back in their favor. So I could see them going back to Indiana, splitting, and then rattling off 2 in a row to win 4-2. So, yeah, I still like it. Minus 1.5, minus 152.
In the market, there's a minus 190 on over 5.5 games. Brandon, yeah. I'm considering that as a little bit of a hedge position on Thunder in 5. Just basically.
Yeah, I was going to say that's another spot that I do show slight value. I've got over 5.5 games, just over 70%. So minus 190, I believe, is like 65%. So again, like that's a pretty bettable margin. My margins are always going to be a little higher than you would typically find from bettors because my numbers are a little further off. If you missed my minus 1,200 bet last game and you missed out, but you won it, good news. You can still bet it. Oklahoma City plus 1.5 is minus 1,200. So it's the exact same bet as last time. They just have won a game now, but you lose the bet if it's Pacers in 6 or less. The Thunder just need to win 2 more games and you cash the bet. Well, they already won 1 game yesterday. They win 1 more game in Indy. You get the game 5 at home. It's not the exact same because you'd rather have the home game right away next. That's why we liked it then. But if you missed out on a minus 1,200 and you're feeling a little angst about it, you can still pretty much do the same one.
Yeah, excited to lay the 1200. Nothing like laying 1200 on one.
Listen, man, I got 3 units on minus 1200, and all I need is one more Thunder win.
Hey.
That's a free quarter unit bet. We love to sprinkle quarter units on terrible bets. And now I get one of them back, baby.
What's SGA to win MVP?
Basically the same as
SGA
the
to win
Thunder odds.
MVP is
Like minus 500.
Yeah, it's minus 500.
Okay, yeah, because I mean the lowest I've seen on them to win the series, the Thunder, is 550. Now I've only looked at a couple places where I'm at. So if you really wanted to find a spot to bet the Thunder and you wanted to, I would bet SGA MVP way before I bet minus 550. I would take SGA MVP at minus 500 if you wanted to get in on some action and just keep it simple.
My question for me, all of us seem to be still feeling good about the Thunder to varying degrees, but we all feel good about them winning the series. The question to me is, if you want to get a Thunder bet in, you may be a little late to the party, but if you want to still get something in, do you do it now? Because to me, I think game 3 going to Indiana typically should set up as a really strong Indiana spot. So why would I want to invest in the Thunder right before a strong spot, except that Indiana's 0-3 in game 3 so far in the playoffs? I don't know if that's anything. That doesn't feel like a thing to me, but I did look up teams that won game 1 on the road in the finals and then lost game 2. Some good news for Pacers fans. That was the Celtics Warriors in 2022. Game 3, home to Boston, 116-100. Comfortable, big Boston win over the Warriors, and then they lost the rest of the way. That's it for them. But game 3, it worked out. Game 3, 2013, Spurs Heat. Spurs stole game 1 in Miami, lost game 2. They come home to San Antonio, 113-77. Obliterated the Heat in that game and won easily. Ended up still losing the series. Both those teams lost the series, but they did have the game 3 spot. Now, you could stop there if you want. That's where BetLab stops because that's the data we have in there. If you want to look back further, you won't like it as much. 2004 Lakers won on the road, lost game 2, lost by 20 points and scored 68 at home in game 3 against the Pistons, lost the series outright. Sixers, we talked about them, the step over, Iverson, Ty Lue, won game 1 on the road, never won again the rest of the way. Both those teams lost 4-1. So not much sample here, but the 2 recent ones, the team coming home game 3 won comfortably. I don't know that I'm going to come back to a thing I've said a few times, that you don't have to bet every market every time. And I think to me, this is that for the Thunder. There's enough threat of going to Indiana. Oklahoma City has not been great on the road all playoff. I don't need to invest in Thunder futures right now. If I miss it and they win here, I missed it. I don't need to cash every single bet. I can miss a market. To me, this is that.
Yeah, there's nothing to miss, essentially. It's 1-1. The favorite just blew their doors off in game 2, and now you're in a precarious spot going on the road in game 3, historically speaking. I'll say this. Let the Thunder go to Indianapolis and drop game 3. I'll be right back popping Oklahoma City Thunder futures on the series for them to win in as many angles as I think are priced correctly. So
let me ask you that, Sean. If they lose game 3, are you going to like them so much to bet Thunder? Because I'm considering also Thunder 4-2 at plus 290. Because like I am 100% with you guys. Like the OKC Thunder are winning the title. They're gonna win the series. There's a lot of things I find that it's like the margin is not as comfortable here for me, I think, as it is for Brandon, based on where we were pre-series. Like the way that this is played out, I'm kind of like, man, they're gonna get another one, and they may not. They may just be like, yeah, they would have gotten it, but they didn't. Like they lost the ball out of bounds, and Shea made a great shot or whatever. Like that stuff happens. Much the same way that like it could have been Thunder 4-1 and they lost game 1. But if they lose game 3, how are you going to feel about Thunder rattling off 3 straight to win in 6, Sean?
It seems, this is the thing about all this, is everything seems like, and you say this perfectly, Matt, all the time. It always seems daunting at the time. They're down 1-0. Now I'm getting the Thunder at even money to win in 6 games or less when it was consensus that they might sweep these boys up. Right. Now I can get them in 6 or less at even money. So it always seems daunting. The Pacers, I believe, and the reason I made sure it was 6 or less is I do believe they end up getting one more. When that's going to be, I'm not sure. This would be, you would think, their best opportunity. So if they do steal it, and say I'm able to get like plus 170 or something on the Thunder in 6, I would absolutely entertain that. I don't know if the number would be that heavy, but yeah, I would have to take a look at it because there's a very viable way they can win 3 straight games and close out the series.
So Mock Rivers says, who's a little bit patient leaning in the comments, says, I understand not being overreactive, but why declare before game 3 that nothing about game 3 will change your perspective? That seems stubborn. From a betting perspective, Mock, I'll defend it this way, is like, that to me is having a read and not being over-indexed by one sample, like a small sample, one singular outcome, which I think Brandon's really good at, and I think Sean's really good at, and I think all of our Buckets guys are really good at, and I am terrible at. So, in general, there's like a really good opportunity here, I think, to kind of like, it's from a process standpoint, I actually think that there's value in it.
Just like you shouldn't overreact if the Thunder come out and completely destroy them in game 3. Say they win by 18 or 19 points. Just say game 3 looks just like game 2. If they lay game 4 and it's like Pacers plus 8.5 at home, I'm taking that number. You know what I mean? So it all, you just can't overreact in a lot of different aspects. You just kind of got to trust your homework, how you feel about the overall series and matchups, and try to pick off prices that may be wrong from public perception or other things.
Yeah, Brandon, it's not necessarily being stubborn to have your mind made up and not be moved by game 3. It's knowing that the market is going to react to game 3 and probably overreact to game 3 and trusting the read you have overall. I think for all 3 of us, I think by the sound of it, I think that whoever wins game 3, we will probably instinctively, before we dig into it, lean the other team, at least ATS in game 4. Does that sound right? Like if the Thunder win game 3, we'll feel Indiana game 4. Like it's a zigzag spot, I think, the way the series is looking.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that, which is why I'm probably just going to bet Pacers money line. And if it loses game 3, roll it back on game 2 and hope to come out like with whatever the extra change is on the profit. Okay. Brandon, take the wheel for me, buddy, and walk me through. You've got some series leader stuff we'll talk about here.
Yeah. So, I just want to talk through each of the markets. 2 of them I have a pretty strong read on and a play. 2 of them I want to get your guys' thoughts on and see if you think there is a play. So let's start with rebounds. Rebound is one that we talked about already last time, and I think it still sets up as iHeart. So here's the setup. Rebounding on the series, iHeart is averaging 8.5 per game on 13 attempts. Identical numbers to Siakam, 8.5 on 13 attempts. But you probably know if you're watching, Sean and I both run iHeart rebounds. Last game, his rebounds went up. He got 5 more minutes on the court, which is not small in his opportunity. He actually, too, is only at 18% contested rebound percentage on the series. That's like the lowest of any of the key players. That, to me, is outlier. iHeart's going to get some contested rebounds. So I think actually his number should be there. So between iHeart and Siakam, those are pretty equal. But to me, iHeart is all upside still. He can still play more minutes. He can still improve his contested rebound percent. From there, Chet actually leads in rebound chances at 14 a game, but is only rebounding 6 a game. I don't know that I see that changing a lot. Chet has not played physical on the glass so far in the series. He hasn't actually had more than 7 rebounds in one game since the second round right now. You're going to need more than 7 rebounds in a bunch of games to take the series leader here. So I think, to me, Chet is a no bet. Miles Turner, his rebounding dropped immediately as soon as they started playing more bigs against him. We kind of suspected that might happen. Neesmith had huge rebounding in game 1, fell off precipitously in game 2. I think that was an outlier. One other name that's kind of just oddly in the mix, but not. J-Dub's at 12 rebound chances a game. That's like right in the mix with all of those other big men, but he's only rebounding 4.5 a game. So if you think J-Dub can start rebounding suddenly, there's a 65-1 on him if you think you get in the rebounds leader mix. But he's 8 behind already, and his rebounds are going to have to come at the expense of some of these other big men. To me, it's looking very much like it's an iHeart versus Siakam 2-horse race. And iHeart is the underdog between the two. Siakam's plus 150, iHeart is plus 180. Hopefully, you listened last episode and already got the iHeart. But whether you did or didn't, I think that's a good price. I think iHeart plus 180 is the best series leader bet you can make right now to lead in rebounding. Thoughts from either of you on iHeart rebounds?
You know where I'm at. I like it. And I think his minutes continue to go up, even if it's, like you said, even if it's by 2 or 3 more a game. I think he is important and impactful. Honestly, everything we laid out about iHeart in the last episode was dead on. Matt talked about his offensive playmaking, his screen setting. He had a couple assists in the first quarter. He was important for them the other night. And I think he continues to get the minutes in the low 20s, hopefully pushing mid 20s. And like you said, the contested rebounds, between both teams, he's the best rebounder on the floor. So if there is contested rebounds, I give him the edge in a lot of those spots, for especially against a team in the Pacers that isn't very fond of rebounding. So, and I also think game 3, the reason I like the over, not to go off topic, but I'll be quick, is that I just think it's going to be chaos. I think the Pacers are going to try to create as much chaos as possible offensively, and it's going to be breakneck fast. I think that's why, and I think we haven't seen great offense performance from J-Dub and the 3 big henchmen, as we talked about with SGA, Williams, and Chet. I think overall offensively, the Thunder have a lot of room to improve, and I think the Pacers are going to go all out on just trying to play the best version of basketball they play, and that's breakneck quick. So that's why I like the over, and that would create more rebounding chances. But iHeart is the best rebounder on the floor for both teams.
Yeah, just game to game too. Sean, you cashed game 2 rebounding leader with Hartenstein was like plus, what number did you get? 390 or something?
Yeah, plus 390, yeah.
So it's very weird. Chet had been the series rebounding leader by odds coming into the series through game 1, through game 2. They finally have admitted, okay, it's probably not happening for Chet. They've dropped him down to a distant third. Game 3 lead, Chet's still the leader, plus 225. iHeart still is plus 300. Siakam 375. Chet should not be the leader. He's not getting the rebounds right now. iHeart 3-1, I think is still good there. If you really want to fade Chet, you can fade him by playing no double-double in the series at plus 220. He's not getting it with assists. He's not probably getting it with blocks, barring some crazy outcome. So if he's not topping 7 rebounds since round 2, he's going to have to get a 10-some game there, and he might not even get the points even in that game. So I think that's possible. Assist leader. Assist has been, as we thought that it might, as most would expect in the series, Halliburton and Shea. That's it. That's who's going to be the assist leader. Now, here's what's interesting. Assists per game, it's very tight right now. Halliburton 6, Shea 5.5, Nembhard 5, TJ McConnell 5, J-Dub 5.5. Everybody's within 1 assist per game on the surface. But if you look at the potentials, it's a 2-man race. J-Dub 8 per game, dropped way down in game 2. TJ McConnell 9 per game. Nembhard 8.5 per game, dropped way down in game 2. Shea 13 a game, Halliburton 14 a game. Those two are way out ahead, 50% higher on potential assists. They just haven't always fallen yet. I think it's a 2-horse race, and the numbers for Halliburton are always lower assists when they lose, higher assists when they win. Halliburton is ahead of the field by 1 assist on Shea right now, but we all like the Thunder. We all expect the Thunder to win 3 more games still. That should mean more Shea assists than Halliburton assists at plus 160. I think that still is a good way to invest in Shea in assists. The Halliburton assist unders continue to hit for us. There's even a book that has a most assists without Halliburton. There's a minus 300 on Shea. I know that's a high price. I think that's a way to fund the rest of your Shea bets, because the way this is shaping up, if he's getting 5 extra potentials a game on anybody other than Halliburton, that should basically be free as long as he stays healthy. So minus 300 without Hallie, plus 160 with him. I think both of those are good bets. Matt, you were not feeling great about Shea assists after game 1. Do you feel better about this now, or where are you at on the Shea Hallie thing?
I like J-Dub plus 1,300. I like J-Dub a lot plus 1,300. He's tied with Shea in terms of the totals. I get the potentials. Not all potential assists are created equal, right? J-Dub's assists are high quality, high efficiency, high expected value assists. Shea's are a little bit more variant. I think Shea's were probably augmented by the fact that the Thunder had such a great shooting. Like it's Alex Caruso, right? Like, so for me, if I think going back to Indy, and if we think this is especially if you were unswayed by any conversation about Indy and you think like Thunder taking 2, this is gonna be done in 5, then I actually really love J-Dub then, because the shorter I think that this goes, the more it's like I don't think the role players that Shea passes to are going to shoot as well in OKC or in Indiana. And I think the players that J-Dub passes to, which is more on the interior as he slashes and creates, are better high opportunity looks in Indiana. So that's my read. I get where you're coming from on Shea. A lot of this is just simply Shea's not a great passer. J-Dub's a great passer. Like those two facts together, to me, puts a little bit of value, especially at this number for J-Dub.
Well, yeah, I think we've all agreed on fade Halliburton assists. So if you're still a little bit fade Shea assists too, then I think the market's really interesting because, like you said, J-Dub, Nembhard, even McConnell are all right there. There's a J-Dub 20-1 at multiple books right now. There's a Nembhard 50-1. There's a McConnell 75-1. If it goes in 5, like you said, okay, maybe one person just had their teammates' shots fall for that game and led by 3-4 assists. And even if you end up splitting like a 50-1 or a 20-1, that's a pretty good hit for you. I don't want to go there. J-Dub had 6 potentials to 15 for Shea. That's a pretty huge difference for me. I'm going to take over even 3 more games. That's like an extra 30 shots. So I'm going to stick with Shea. But I think if you want to fade Shea also, I do think that that's interesting. Threes leader, I don't have a great play on threes leader. Nesmith, Halliburton, and Obi Toppin lead the threes both in makes and in attempts. Nesmith, I think, is most likely. We thought that coming in. I believe that was Jim Turvey's bet at like 4-1. Halliburton is always going to get the threes up if he decides to get threes up. I guess I don't really know. Pacers are taking half their shots on threes. You want a pacer here? I think I might add a quarter unit on Obi Toppin. Obi Toppin, threes leader in the finals. What? It's 30-1. It's 30-1, and he's 1 off the lead, and he's getting the shots up. Even in game 2, he didn't hit. He hit 1 of 5. He only played 19 minutes. It's a little bit the iHeart thing. Like, it's only upside. He's already only 1 off the lead. He's going to get the shots up. 5 is a pretty high attempt number for Obi Toppin on threes in 19 finals. When he's getting 5 shots up, I think you can live with getting 5 shots up. So I before the series sprinkled a quarter unit on 3 guys. I don't even need to name them. I lost. I lost all 3. I had a quarter unit left on my 1 unit I was going to put in. I think Obi 30-1. If you're new to the market, if you haven't bet it, Halliburton is plus 250. I think I would rather Halliburton than Nesmith, even though he's 2 back on Nesmith right now, given those 2. But I haven't been able to figure out the threes market. Do either of you have a threes angle at all?
So look, I think he's a terrible shooter. His shot form makes me want to vomit, but like,
who's he?
I'm getting there. But if we look at the gap between the top and where they're at coming off of game 2, Alex Caruso, 21-1. What if the role players don't shoot worse on the road? What if Caruso knocks them down in Indiana? And they do, and our pre-series cap on Pacers in 5 is right, and my shaking mid-series is stupid as always, and it was just Thunder in 5 all along. Isn't a pretty good path to that Caruso knocks him down on the road in games 3 and 4 and goes back to OKC for a blowout with like everyone being like, yeah, Shea was great, but who was awesome in that series was Alex Caruso.
I gotta say, AC wasn't just hitting like catch and shoot. He was off the dribble. He was falling away yesterday. So if he's gonna be shooting and knocking him down the way he was knocking him down in game 2, shit, you might want to sprinkle on MVP. for AC if he's going to lead the series in threes and shoot it in that way. But in all seriousness, it's pretty clear the directive is, yo, if you got it, get it up. And he took him with confidence, and there wasn't, I would say throughout the rest of the playoffs and in other multiple series, there was hesitancy in a couple of these spots where he thought about it or didn't shoot it and gave it up to someone else. He's shooting them earlier and earlier in the shot clock. He's shooting them in different ways. It's not just a broken down play or a dribble drive. He was knocking down threes and getting looks in multiple ways in game 2. So it's hard to argue that, but it is a really tough market, as BA said, because the Thunder are going to give Pacers threes, so you think you'd have to go to a 3-point shooter. The market overall are always tough because one guy could explode and tilt the market on its head in one game. And then with the dead heat rules, which apply, is also very difficult. So, the threes, I don't feel as confident on the threes as I do feel on the rebounds that Hartenstein's just going to be. Yeah. That's what he's out there to do.
Yeah. Brandon, I regret to inform you we don't have time today to discuss points without SGA. So you'll have to give that one out in the action recap. We're too long on time. We got to get some comments from the gallery. Brandon has thoughts on points leader without SGA. I'll try and force him to write it up later. It's my fault. I wanted to talk about the science of 4 factors. It's my fault. It's absolutely on me. Brad Unger says, assuming that the zone is one of those unveiled strategies in game 3, who should be targeted in prop markets?
Great question.
Passes from Hartenstein and Chet flashing middle. Caruso probably on threes. And then from there, it's more than likely what you really want to do is you want to get a buster underneath. So you're hoping for the lob play. So maybe Chet points. Those are my thoughts, Brandon. Do you have anything else off of the zone that you kind of want to weigh in on?
Yeah, Hartenstein assists, I think, is an interesting play. He had no assists game 1 on 3 potentials. He jumped to 4 on 9 potentials in game 2. So I had that one earmarked anyway as just an area for I guess growth for him. I think ideally it's what do you think Oklahoma City does against the zone? Like, you want to play, I think, Thunder. Maybe you go like Dort 4 threes, Oklahoma City money line, or like you sprinkle a few. Like, to me, Indiana zone means the threes are going up from Oklahoma City's role players. So I don't trust they're going in. So maybe that's just the prop you play is the Pacers to win game 3 because they didn't figure out the zone right away, and that's it. But I think if you want to prop, hitting some escalators, some higher alt outcomes for Caruso threes, maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's Dort threes on the road, not usually great. Maybe it's.
Wait, what did you say? What was that?
What?
Can you repeat that?
Dort threes on the road, or
Dort threes on the road, not great, is what I said. Dort, not great. Let me summarize for you. I would be intrigued. I might sprinkle a Wiggins. I thought Wiggins took some shots he shouldn't be taking in game 2, but I thought he showed he could belong in the series. So Wiggins, maybe 3 or 4 threes that Indiana is going to let him get on the zone. I think I'm intrigued by that.
That's a great call, Brandon. That's a really smart call on his threes. I'm very impressed with that.
And don't be afraid, really quick, Matt, don't be afraid to look at the live prop market if Carlisle does show the zone. I would be weary coming in betting props like, oh, the zone's going to show up, so this is why, like that being the handicap. Yeah. There may be a spot where they show the zone, it works a little bit, and then there's a prop that you feel like you can attack off of how it's working live.
We got a lot of folks are on the Pacers here tomorrow in one Wednesday in game 3. Bruce Slayton, I'm taking Pacers in game 3 if OKC wins one of the 2. I think it's game 4. AP says, man, Pacers money line. Lots of folks. We got folks saying they'll split the games. Pacers team total game 4. I'm taking the bounce back spot on the loser. The Pacers are 0-3 in game 3s, but they were also 3-0 in game 2s. So I think that's maybe like the question here is like how to kind of balance that out if we're looking at this. Ryan Smith likes Nembhard 15+ points, Siakam 7+ boards, and Hartenstein 7+ boards at plus 500. We can talk a little bit more about that tomorrow on Best Bets. Come on back, Ryan, for Best Bets at 2:30. And Hayden Burnett says overtime plus 1,600, Mr. Moore. I do make this under a possession. So I will unfortunately be on overtime once again, trying to make back all of the money I've lost in the NBA playoffs. That's going to do it for Buckets. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. My thanks to Sean Little at Chicago Flow and Brandon Anderson. Great discussion today. I thought this was a really great episode. Appreciate you guys being with us. Give us a like and subscribe at youtube.com/The Action Network. My thanks to David Payne, our audio producer, running in between appointments to make sure this episode gets up. David's the best. I love David. We'll be back tomorrow, 2:30 Eastern. Best bets for game 3 between the Pacers and the Thunder. Thanks for joining us. Till next time, let's get buckets.